TM mode or the transverse magnetic mode for rectangular waveguide. Here also, starting from the fundamental equation of TM mode, I will discuss the boundary conditions, then I will derive the equations for the TM mode, and subsequently I will discuss the cutoff wave number corresponding to cutoff frequency and the cutoff wavelength, and then I will discuss the TM11 mode, which is the dominant mode or the fundamental mode for uh, TM mode in rectangular waveguide. As we know, similar to my previous discussion in TM mode, the HZ component I have to consider 0 for this case also, because HZ represents the longitudinal magnetic field component and that must be uh, 0 when I'm going to consider the TM mode. And plugging this condition HZ equals to 0 into these four reduced equation, what I have derived in general. So finally I have obtained these four equations where all these four components Hx, Hy and Ex, Ey, all of them are expressed in terms of the longitudinal component of the electric field only. If you compare these four equations with the parallel plate waveguide, you can see that in the case of parallel plate waveguide, these variations, del x variations, I have neglected, and automatically Hy and Ex were absent for the parallel plate waveguide. But in this case, these variations along the x directions I must have to include, because the waveguide is shielded right now from these x directions as well as from the y directions also. Therefore, the variations with respect to y as well as x, I have to consider both of them. Next is the boundary conditions. In the case of TE mode, we have assumed that Ex was equals to 0 and Ey was equals to 0. Ex was equals to 0 at y equals to 0 and y equals to b. Similarly, Ey was equals to 0 for x equals to 0 and x equals to a. And these two boundary conditions I have assumed because for TE mode, it was the longitudinal electric field that has been considered to be 0. But in this case, since Hz is equals to 0, so we are free to choose Ez as the element to consider for the boundary conditions. So Ez, if I consider it is equals to 0 at y is equal to 0 and y equals to b, because Ez, this is the z directions and Ez should be directed along this. So this Ez will satisfy both of these conditions. At y equals to 0, it is also tangential to the bottom plate, and at y equals to b, it is also tangential to the top plate. Similarly, Ez is tangential at x equals to 0, that means at the side plate, and similarly it is also tangential to the right side plate at x equals to a. So therefore, since Ez is appearing tangential to both the y and x direction, so we can easily apply this boundary condition that Ez is equals to 0, because this shielding material is made of conductors, and we know the electric field between the conductor within the conductors is equals to 0, and that is why in order to maintain the boundary condition, the tangential component of the electric field within the conductor and just outside of the conductor is 0, Ez must be 0. The next step is very easy and similar to the previous one, that as our Ez component is non-zero, so plug this Ez into the Helmholtz equations by considering is it has a variations along the x, y and z, but the z dependent term we can include by this e to the power factor, because we know the electromagnetic wave is propagating along the z direction and each of the component propagates with the same speed and with the same wave number. Therefore, kz represents the wave number along the direction of the propagation. And here the purpose of including this Ez in the Helmholtz equations is to find out the variations along the x and y directions. So therefore, plugging these equations, this expression into these equations, we have this one here. I kept this del x and del y factor unchanged or in these equations, because the variations along the x and y directions we cannot neglect or we cannot make it 0, similar to the parallel plate waveguide where this del del x variation I have considered 0, but here we cannot do that since the waveguide is right now shielded from the x directions also in addition to the y directions. However, this derivative over the z, it is del del z, when it will be operated on this expression, so it will bring this kz out, and finally we can name this new parameter k square minus kz square as kc square, and this process is similar to the previous one where kc represents the cutoff wave number and it includes the wave number along the x and y directions, while this is the wave number along the z directions through the waveguide, and k represents the wave number with which you are exciting your waveguide. Now we need to find out the variations of this Ez along x and y directions. Therefore, since it depends upon the x and y, we can apply the method of separation of variable by considering the x dependent term and y dependent term as a product of both of them. Now, plugging these conditions, these equations into the equations what I have obtained, we can separate it out, the x dependent variable and the y dependent variable, we can separate them, and we can name this x dependent variable as minus kx square, whereas the y dependent variable as minus ky square. And as I told, this kx square and ky square is going to define this kc square, and if I relate this kx square with the x dependent variable and ky square with the y dependent variable. So we can have the solution for this x dependent variable xx and yy. And after obtaining these two solutions, since E naught z, E naught 0 z, which is the magnitude along the xy variations, so which is represented by as a product of x and y, we can apply these solutions as a product of them, and we can finally find the variations along the xy directions for the uh, longitudinal component of Ez. And here is how we are having that solutions. So from these two equations, the general solution for x dependent variable is represented by this one, whereas the y dependent variable can be represented using general solution by this way, where a, b, c and d are arbitrary constants. Now, as per the definition of the E naught z x y, which I have assumed as the product of x and y, we can simply multiply this x and y, and I can get these xy or transverse variations of the longitudinal electric field component. And the total electric field, which includes the variations along the x, y and z, can be obtained by simply multiplying this e to the power factor, which represents the propagations of the electromagnetic wave. So therefore, the longitudinal component of the electric field includes the general solution for the x, general solution for the y, and the propagation factor, which represents uh, which represents the propagation of the wave along the z directions. That is the e to the power z factor. And this is the time to apply the boundary conditions. Once I know the expression for Ez, so I should have to apply the boundary conditions, and the boundary condition is that Ez is equals to 0 at y equals to 0 at y equals to b. So at y equals to 0, these boundary conditions gives us c is equals to 0, and at y equals to b, the boundary condition gives the wave number along the y directions, and that is discretized, that is n pi divided by b. The other boundary conditions, that is Ez is equals to 0 at x equals to 0 and x equals to a, gives us two solutions for a and kx. So therefore a becomes 0 when x equals to 0, the boundary condition I applied for x equals to 0, and for x equals to a, that boundary condition gives me that kx is also a discrete wave number, and this discrete wave number depends upon this m pi divided by a, where m is integer starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. Now, as you know, the electric field Ez, that means the longitudinal component of the electric field, you can easily figure it out. The other four components, that means Ex, Ey, Hx and Hy, from these reduced equations what I have derived and I have obtained, and which is expressed in terms of the Ez only. So it includes the derivative with respect to x and y of Ez for both the E and H field along the transverse directions. So finally, performing all these four calculations, I have obtained the total 5 electric and magnetic field, where the 3 electric field presents over there and the 2 magnetic field, because the other magnetic field, that is the longitudinal component of the magnetic field, that is Hz, I have assumed that is equals to 0 for TM mode. Now from this 5 field, we can easily find, or we can say what are the fundamental mode for the TM mode. So let's assume that is TM00. If you consider TM00, you can see that for m equals to 0 and n equals to 0, all these modes or all these fields vanish. Therefore, TM00 cannot be a fundamental mode. It can be TM01 or TM10 as a fundamental mode, but if you consider either of m or m is equals to 0, you can find any one of this or all of this electric and magnetic field goes to 0, because m exists. In addition to here, in the argument of cos and sine, m exists outside of this cos and sine over here. Similarly, n also exists over here. So either of n or m is equals to 0 makes all these fields 0. Therefore, the TM01 or TM10 cannot be fundamental mode for the TM mode in rectangular waveguide. The only TM11 mode for which M and N are non-zero will be the fundamental mode for TM mode. So therefore, we are going to discuss the TM11 mode for this discussion. Cutoff frequency, we can find the cutoff frequency in a similar way by making these kz 0, because we know from my previous discussion that kz 0 represents the wave which oscillates along the x and y direction and that doesn't propagate. So therefore k becomes equals to kc. So k represents the wave number with which you are exciting your waveguide, and if the wave has the wave number equals to the cutoff frequency kc, that wave cannot propagate along the longitudinal directions of the waveguide. It just oscillate along the conducting walls or shielding walls of the waveguides. So therefore, from that condition, kz can be found, if fc, which is the cutoff wave number, can be found by making this kz is equals to 0, and the expression is similar to the previous one, that means for TE mode. But the only difference is that for TE mode, the fundamental or the dominant mode or the fundamental mode was TE10, so n was 0, but in this case we cannot make n equals to 0. So therefore the fundamental the frequency cutoff frequency of the fundamental mode or the dominant mode for TM mode in a rectangular waveguide is higher than the TE mode in rectangular waveguide. Finally, I am going to discuss the TM11 mode, which is the dominant mode or fundamental mode of rectangular waveguide when configured for TM propagation. And by plugging this condition m equals to 1 and n equals to 1, we have the field equations as I have listed in this slide, and along with that, the longitudinal wave number kz11 can be represented in this way, and the cutoff frequency as shown over here, and similarly the cutoff wave number, which includes the wave number along the x direction and along the y direction, can be represented as shown over here. Okay, let's consider a practical design of the rectangular waveguide which supports the TM11 mode. The problem statement is that the cutoff frequency I have to consider 10 gigahertz and the excitation frequency is 12 gigahertz. Since the excitation frequency is greater than the cutoff frequency, we can expect that the wave having the excitation frequency 12 gigahertz can propagate through the waveguide. And the problem asks to find out the longitudinal wavelength lambda z for the 11 mode, TM11 mode. And we know that lambda z must be greater than the excitation wavelength, because this is the excitation frequency, and the corresponding wavelength of this excitation frequency will be less than the wavelength what I'm going to find out for this TM11 mode. Let's start. And one more thing, the guiding medium I have assumed here is air. Therefore, the refractive index that we have to consider, that is 1. So this is the expression of the cutoff frequency what I have obtained in my earlier slides. So both this m and n term would present over here, and finally a little rearrangement shows that the cutoff frequency would be directly related with the dimensions along the x or along the y. Now from this expression we can easily find out the dimensions a and b, but in the last case when I have considered the TE mode, we have seen that n was 0, and due to that factor I have considered that since b was not present in the expression, so I have considered the arbitrary value of b, and that was equals to half of the a. But right now, since n is not equals to 0 and that is equals to 1, both of these a and b are appearing in the expression of the cutoff frequency. So in order to choose the dimension a and b, I am choosing a is equals to 30 millimeter, which is corresponding to the cutoff wavelength. That means the wavelength corresponding to 10 gigahertz. Why I am choosing this? Because a should be greater than b, and that was the assumption what I made at the beginning of the lecture of these rectangular waveguides. So therefore, in order to satisfy this condition, I am choosing a is equal to 30 millimeter. However, you can choose a is equal to lambda c divided by 2, that is the 15 millimeter. But if you choose that, you have to find this b from this expression. If you reduce this a, b will automatically be increased in order to maintain this condition. So therefore, to confirm the a is greater than b, I am choosing a is equal to 30 millimeter. And since a is equal to 30 millimeter, from these equations I can easily find out what is b. So b is coming out something less than this, but here you can see practical, for the practical value I am choosing a is equal to 32.5 millimeter rather than 30 millimeter, and that value of a is giving us b is equal to 18.85 millimeter. Now from this expression of kz, that means the longitudinal wave number, where plugging this condition that k, which represents the wave number corresponding to the excitation wave, which has the wavelength which is related to the wavelength lambda naught, and which is also corresponding to the excitation frequency 12 gigahertz, and plugging these conditions into this expression, we can easily obtain that lambda z, that means the wavelength along the longitudinal directions, is coming approximately as 45 millimeter, and which is coming exactly equals to the similar one that I have found for the TE10 case of rectangular waveguide. And this is obvious because in the last case, that means the TE10 case, I have assumed that the cutoff frequency was 10 gigahertz, and I have excited the waveguide by 12 gigahertz. And in this case also, the cutoff frequency and excitation frequency I have considered the same. Therefore, the wavelength we should expect, they also will be same. Now let's visualize the electromagnetic field which propagates through the rectangular waveguide for TM11 mode. Since this Ez and Ex component exists, so when we observe from the y directions, we should expect that Ez and Ex, this vector, should rotate, as we have seen for our previous lectures, that means for the parallel plate waveguide as well as for the TE10 mode I have discussed in my earlier lecture. Similarly, with this Ex and Ey component exists, the rotation we can observe on the xy plane, that means the having xy plane having the surface normal along the z directions. And since this Ez and Ey component also exist, therefore that rotation we also can observe along the yz plane, which has a surface normal along the x direction. And the rotation we can also observe for the x and y xy plane due to the presence of the magnetic field along the x direction and along the y directions, and the xy plane which also has a surface normal along the y directions. So let's see. Before going to observe the rotational field, here I have just excited this waveguide with a 8 gigahertz excitation frequency, and 8 gigahertz from the value of this excitation frequency, you know that the 8 gigahertz is less than the 10 gigahertz, that is the cutoff wave number or cutoff frequency of the waveguide. So therefore that wave cannot propagate, and although you are exciting the waveguide, so while the wave is trying to propagate through the length of the waveguide, it gets decayed, and nothing you can get at the from the output or the other port. So that is the simulation of this animation is showing you that thing. Let's consider the ex and ez component first. Here, due to presence of this ex and ez component, which is defined on the xz plane, the propagation of the wave we are observing on the xz plane over here. This direction is the z directions. This is the z directions. Vertical direction is the x direction, and the direction towards u, that is the y direction. Now the wave is propagating along the z directions, that is being confirmed, and while they are propagating, these two vector, the wave is comprised of two vector on the xz plane, and you can see that vectors are rotating. These arrows are representing the vector and it is rotating. But the observe this rotation at x equals to 0, these vectors are rotating counterclockwise, while at x equals to a, they are rotating clockwise, and that is due to this cos factor, because this at x equals to 0, this ez is 0. So the derivative includes for the in the curl expression, which includes this ex at x equals to 0 and x equals to a. At x equals to 0, this cos factor goes to 1, and at x equals to a, that goes to minus 1. So that is why the rotations is taking place in opposite direction on the at x equals to 0 and x equals to a point. Therefore, as you are moving towards the middle portion starting from x equals to 0, you can see that these vectors are not rotating at the middle portion, and that is the effect of this rotation gets cancelled from the both sides. So when you are moving from x equals to 0 and x equals to a, at the middle portions, this effect gets cancelled because the rotations are taking place from opposite side. So that is why the peak x is attained at the middle portion, and the brighter red spot represents the positive peak, and the lighter red spot represents the negative peak, and the region in between them represents the 0. So it is crossing from positive peak to 0 to negative peak, and in this way the wave gets propagated. You can see from over here. And now the visualization includes the y component and the z component. So therefore this plane is the yz plane having the surface normal towards you, that is the x along the x directions. So since this is yz plane, so from this coordinate system we can see that y equals to 0 is this one, and y equals to b is this one. So for y equals to 0, this ey component is 1 due to this cos factor, and at y equals to b, this goes to minus 1. But ez component is 0 on both sides. So therefore this rotation which is taking place on the y equals to 0, you can see from where at y equals to 0 it is clockwise, while at y equals to b it is counterclockwise. There are similar situations I have shown in my last slide, and that is due to this cos factor. And as you are moving at the middle portion, you can see that this rotation gets cancelled. Okay, and finally the peaks are attained. The dark red spot represents the positive peak, while the lighter red spot represents the negative peak, with these blue intermediate regions. These regions represents the 0 and that you can confirm from this color map over here. And as like the positive peak and negative peak, the at the zero portion, at this portion the arrows are not varying in a significant way, that they are varying at the two edges of the waveguide. The slight rotation what you can observe at the middle position, that is the sign factors, because as you are moving at the middle, that means pi by 2 regions, this part goes to 0. So the only component which appears at the middle position and the rotation is taking place only for the EZ component. And this animation includes the X component and Y component of electric field, and which are defined on the XY plane. So this is the XY plane having the surface normal along the Z direction, and that means from U towards screen. And from here you can see, so this is X equals to 0. From this coordinate system I have presented over here, this should be X equals to 0 and this end should be X equals to A, whereas this end should be Y equals to 0 and this end should be Y equals to B. So when you are at the X equals to 0, from this EX component you can see that due to this factor cos pi x, the direction of the wave is along the right side, while when you are reaching at x equals to a, the direction of the wave on the left side, and this direction alters due to the propagation of the electromagnetic field, but the direction of the arrows along at the x equals to 0 and x equals to a are always opposite to each other, and that is due to this cos factor. And these directions are mainly are perpendicular to the x, because I am considering the ex component. So the ex component should be perpendicular to the x direction. That is why these arrows are either perpendicular or perpendicular to this direction or along these directions. Now the EY component, when I'm observing on this side, so this EY component is also appearing perpendicular to this side as well as to this side. That means y equals to 0 and y equals to b side. And these arrows are also uh, opposite in directions each time. And that is due to this cos pi y divided by b, this factor. Because when y equals to 0 at this side, this gives this cos gives 1, positive 1, and when y equals to b, this cos pi gives the minus 1. So that represents the arrows should be directed opposite to each other. At the middle portion, when you are approaching from y, that is from here, when you are reaching to the middle position, this cos factor goes to 0 and the dominant factor appears due to this sign pi x divided by a. And similarly, when you are approaching to the middle starting from x equals to 0, this cos factor goes to 0 and this factor, this sign pi y divided by b, this factor becomes the dominant one. And therefore these arrows are directing as shown over here. And the direction of the arrow, you can see these arrows are directing either towards you or from you, that is either towards you or into the screen. That is because all these arrows only has these z directions, z variations, because as you are approaching starting from x equals to 0 or y equals to 0 at the middle portion, these two ex and ey goes to 0 because of these two cos factor, and that leaves only the z component, because ex, ey and ez, these three component would present for the TM11 mode. And since these two component goes to 0 at the middle position, so only z component will appear at the middle, and that z component is either towards you or from you. That depends upon the time evolution of the propagating wave. That is why you are observing this field, such kind of animations over here. Now the magnetic field. Magnetic fields are defined on the xy plane also. So in my last slide we have seen the electric field which are defined on the xy plane, that represents the arrows at the middle position. The arrows were either directing towards you or from you. Therefore, the variations of the electric field was perpendicular to the plane, or that was parallel to the normal of the plane, and the normal of the plane is the z. So if the electric field is normal to this plane, that means towards you or from you, the magnetic field that obviously should circulate that those electric field, and that is why that those magnetic fields which are defined by hx and hy are appearing on the xy plane in a circulating manner. So when uh, the electric field is directing towards you, the circulation is the counterclockwise, that is positive, and when the electric field is directing from you, the circulation is opposite. That is why you are observing such kind of animations for the magnetic field. In my previous slides, I have shown you the propagation of the electromagnetic wave based on the vector animations of the electric field and the magnetic field on a particular plane. Right now, I am going to visualize you the propagation of the electric field by considering only one component, or in other word I can say how that individual component gets confined within the walls or the conduct within the walls or within the shielding of the waveguide. So that the thing I'm going to show you over here. For that purpose, I have assumed only two components Ex and Ey, because the arguments which I'm going to discuss for the Ex and Ey, so the similar argument will be applicable for all other components, that means Ez, Hx and Hy also. But however, here I'm going to demonstrate only for Ex and Ey, although the animations I will show you only for one component out of this Ex and Ey. Anyway, each of these Ex and Ey includes this cos and sine term, and this cos term and the sine term is associated with the x directed wave number and the y directed wave number. So m pi x divided by a is the wave number along the x direction, whereas n pi y by b is the wave number along the y directions. Now we can represent this cos and sine by Euler theorem. That means for the Ey component, we can represent the sine term as the subtract as the summation of the e to the power j factor or the complex e to the power term. Similarly, for sine term also we can represent in this way as shown over here. For Ex, for cos term and sine term, I have represented using the Euler theorem also over here. Now, what does this expression represent? This e to the power minus j kx, if I write this as kx, that is m pi x divided by a, which is kx. So this e to the power minus j kx, and this is e to the power plus j kx x. So these two factor represents the propagations of the wave along the x direction, positive x direction, and it represents the propagation of the wave along the negative x direction. Similarly, this factor represents the propagation along the positive y, and this represents the propagation along the negative y, where the wave number includes along the y direction is n pi y divided by a, and the similar argument is applicable for Ex also. And since these two propagating wave, that means along the forward direction and the reverse direction, exist with similar amplitude, so we can say that this is nothing but the standing waves, and that is why this cos term and sine term is appearing, and these are appearing due to the formation of the standing waves. So along the x and y direction, the standing wave forms, while the wave actually propagates along the z direction. And that is why when I told that with kz is equals to 0, wave gets oscillate, and the reason is this: with kz is equals to 0, the propagation cannot take place and the wave oscillates along the x direction and y direction. That is why the wave is oscillating, because each of its component Ey and Ex, as I have shown over here, they are forming only standing waves. So each of the component of an electromagnetic wave oscillates uh, between its conducting walls, because is kz was equals to 0, and that is why uh, for kz is equals to 0, that wave represents the cutoff wave. or below which the wave cannot propagate. Even with kz is equals to 0, the wave cannot propagate, and that is the wave oscillates between its conducting walls. And here is the animation of individual component EY, and when you are observing along the x and this is along the y. So you can see this is the x direction and this is the y direction. So x direction has a larger dimension a, which is greater than the dimension along the y. This is b. Now along the x, we can see from here this expression includes the sign. So along the x direction, the EY component I am considering. So EY, this direction is the y direction, the vertical direction. So the EY component is tangential to the x equals to 0 plane and at x equals to a plane. So therefore, this EY component at x equals to 0 is defined by the sine term, because at x equals to 0 this part is equals to 0, and that is why this node is not varying. So there is actually a node is formed and it is not varying. And similarly at x equals to a, since EY must be 0, so it is 0 because another node is formed at x equals to a. So in between two nodes it is oscillating, and it is oscillating along y direction. So it is the significance of EY, and it forms a standing wave along the x direction. You can see from over here. It is not propagating, it is just oscillating. So it is oscillating along the y direction, maintaining uh, the EY equals to 0 at x equals to 0 and EY is equals to 0 at x equals to a. And the propagation is taking place only along the z direction. Now when you will observe the y direction, look, EY component I am considering. So that means along the y direction it is perpendicular to this direction. So along this direction it is not 0, it cannot be 0. So along this direction this factor appears, which is cos. So at y equals to 0, this equals to 1, this cos, and at y equals to b, this cos factor gives you -1, and that is why at each and every time they are opposite to each other. So they are forming a cosinusoidal wave. You can see from here, and at y equals to 0 and y equals to b, their formation or the phase are opposite to each other every time. And the last one, to make you understand that the wavelength what I have obtained by simulating this waveguide is exactly equals to 45 millimeter, because this length along the z directions I have designed the waveguide with this length 45 millimeters. So therefore only one wavelength should occupy the entire length of the waveguide. So this is the z direction, the wave is propagating along this direction. Here I have assumed this EY component, so that EY is forming the propagating wave, nature of the propagating wave, and only one wavelength is occupying the entire length along the z direction, because the length of the waveguide with which I have designed is 45 millimeter.